Thank you, Mike. That's awesome. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to Channing Unitarian Universalist Church. We're glad you joined us for worship today. Whoever you are, whatever your theological, spiritual, political, sexual, or racial orientation or gender identity, you are welcome to worship here and become a part of this community. My name is Lauren Hannah Murphy, and I'll be doing our lay-led service today. Are there announcements this morning?
Yes. There's a prudential meeting today. We're going to start at 11:30 and we are going to end at 12:30 because I have to be somewhere. And then next week on Thursday, our book club is meeting, and I'll cut it off there.
Any other announcements?
Yes.
Two. One, we had a fantastic coffee house last night. Thank you for everyone who came, everyone who's volunteered to help set up. We probably need to break down the tables today after the service, though. So appreciate any help we can get with just getting that knocked out real quick. And then two, Wednesday is International Pronouns Day. We all got them. They're all different. So Wednesday, make a note.
Any other announcements? Debbie?
Yes, I just wanted to announce coming up of our annual Christmas holiday fair, November 18th. We will be having a brief meeting next Sunday after church in case anybody wants to help out or anything else you want to know how we run it, want to help out or whatever. And I'll also have some sign-up sheets out on the table today. If you want to work at a table, help with the table, sign up for baked goods for our food table. Or any questions at all, you can see me during coffee hour.
Are there any other things you're collecting for the whole thing?
For the what?
For the fair, are there any other things you collect for the fair?
Well, we collect items for the white outfit, for the Christmas items or any household whatever items.
Stop. Can you stop?
Anything you want to get rid of that isn't really large, because we don't have a lot of space, so. And if it doesn't, if something large doesn't sell, then we'll ask you to take it back. Or we'll see if we can get rid of it on the marketplace.
Any other announcements? Going once, going twice. All right. Never does hatred cease by hating in return. Only through love can hatred come to an end. Victory breeds hatred. The conquered dwell in sorrow and resentment. They who give up all thought of victory or defeat may be calm and live happily at peace. Let us overcome violence by gentleness. Let us overcome evil by good. Let us overcome the miserly by liberality. Let us overcome the liar by truth. Please stand as you're willing and able, and join in saying the words found in your order of service as I lay our child. Kindling this flame of our liberal heritage in our chalice of community, let us open to the presence of the sacred. In our affirmation, love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all the souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Please remain standing as you're willing and able. We'll sing opening hymn is number 38, Morning Has Broken, which is one of my favorites.
Morning has broken, bright as morning. Blackbird has spoken, my first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the Lord. Praise for the spring, fresh from the Lord. Sweet blue rains new fall, sunlit from heaven, like birds to fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the red garden, strong in completeness, where gusty paths. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the sunlight, even so praise. Praise revelation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Please be seated. Our reading this morning is from the fantasy book, A Memory of Life, by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Schultz. When you do a lay love service, you can read from your favorite books. And just a little, Rand is the name of the main character. I'm not going to go through an entire summary, but just know that this is a battle of good versus evil that's going on right being the Dark One, also named Shaitan in this book, and Rand is the main character on the side of light. The threads of possibility resisted Rand as he wove them together into the world he imagined. He did not know what that meant. Perhaps what he demanded was highly unlikely. This thing he did, using threads to show what could be, was more than simple illusion. It involved looking to worlds that had been before, worlds that could be again, mirrors of the reality he lived in. He stepped into a world that did not know the Dark One. He walked on the road before the palace, taking a deep breath. The butter chain trees were in bloom, the bright yellow blossoms spilling out of the gardens and hanging over the courtyard walls. Children played in them, throwing the petals into the air. Not a cloud barred the brilliant sky. Rand looked up, raised his arms, and stepped out from beneath the blossoming branches into the deep warm sunlight. No guards stood at the way to the palace, only a kindly servant who answered questions for some visitors. Rand strode forward, feet leaving tracks in golden petals as he approached the entrance. A child came toward him, and Rand stopped, smiling at her. She stepped up, reached to touch the sword at Rand's waist. The child seemed confused. "What is it?" she asked, looking up with wide eyes. "Oh, nothing," Rand whispered. Laughter from the other children turned the girl's head, and she left him, giggling as one of the children threw an armful of petals into the air. Rand walked on. "Is this perfection for you?" The Dark One's voice felt distant. He could pierce this reality to speak to Rand, but he could not appear here as he had in the other visions. This place was his antithesis. For this was the world that would exist if Rand killed him in the last battle. "Come and see," Rand said to him, smiling. No reply. If the Dark One allowed himself to be drawn too fully into this reality, he would cease to exist. In this place, he had died. All things turned and came again. That was the meaning of the Wheel of Time. What was the point of winning a single battle against the Dark One, only to know that he would return? Rand could do more. He could do this. "I would like to see the Queen," Rand asked of the servant in the palace doors. "Is she in?" "You should find her in the gardens, young man," the guard said. He looked at Rand's sword, but out of curiosity, not worry. In this world, men could not conceive that one would want to hurt another. It didn't happen. Doors did not bear locks. Coinage was a nearly forgotten eccentricity. Channelers, the magicians in this world, helped create food for everyone. Rand passed a window to Tar Valon, where the Aes Sedai healed any who came and created gateways to bring loved ones together. All had everything they needed. No more weapons, no more spears to dance. Once again, the Aiel were a people of peace. Servants were helpful whenever Rand spoke to them. Nobody questioned why he wanted to see the Queen. He assumed that when he found her, she would be surrounded by people. If anyone could see the Queen, wouldn't that demand all of her time? Yet when he approached her sitting in the palace gardens beneath the boughs of the palace saguaro tree, she was alone. This was a world without problems, a world where people worked out their own grievances easily, a world of giving, not dispute. What would someone need of the Queen? Rand approached her, glancing at the garden wall that he had once fallen over, tumbling down to meet her for the first time. Elaine looked at him from her bench. Her eyes widened immediately, and her hand went to her mouth. "Rand?" Elaine smiled. "This is so frank. Daughter, where are you? Have you used the mask of mirrors to trick me again?" "It is no trick, Elaine," Rand said, sinking down onto one knee before her so that their heads were level. He looked into her eyes. Something was wrong. "Oh, but how can it be?" she asked. "That wasn't Elaine, was it? The tone seemed off, the mannerisms wrong. Could she have changed so much? It had been 100 years. "Elaine," Rand asked, "what has happened to you?" "Happened? Why, nothing. The day is grand, wonderful, beautiful, and peaceful. How I like to sit in my gardens and enjoy the sunlight." Rand frowned. That simpering tone, that rapid reaction, Elaine had never been like that. "We shall have to prepare a feast," Elaine exclaimed, clapping her hands. "I will invite Avienda, it is her week off from singing, though she's probably doing nursery duty. She usually volunteers there. Nursery duty? Everyone so likes to play with the children, both here and there. There's grand competition to care for the children, but we understand the need to take turns. There was nothing wrong with that, really. Why shouldn't they enjoy such activities? But it was wrong, too. He thought Amanda would be a wonderful mother, but to imagine her seeking to spend all day playing with other people's children. Rand looked into Elaine's eyes, looked into them deeply. A shadow lurked back there, behind them. Oh, it was an innocent shadow, but a shadow nonetheless. It was like that shadow behind the eyes of someone who had been turned to the dark one against their will. Rand jumped to his feet and stumbled backwards. What have you done here, he shouted into the sky. Shaitan, answer me. Elaine cocked her head. She wasn't afraid. Fear did not exist in this place. Shaitan? I swear I remember that name. It has been so long I get forgetful sometimes. Shaitan, Rand bellowed. I have done nothing, adversary. The voice was distant. This is your creation. Nonsense, Rand said. You've changed her. You've changed them all. Did you think that removing me from their lives would leave them unaltered? The words thundered through Rand. Aghast, he stepped away as Elaine rose, obviously concerned for him. Yes, he saw it now, the thing behind her eyes. She was not herself, because Rand had taken from her the ability to be herself. I turn men to me, Shaitan said. It is true. They cannot choose good once I have made them mine in that way. How is this any different, adversary? If you do this, we are one. No, Rand screamed, holding his head in his hands, falling to his knees. No, the world would be perfect without you. Perfect, unchanging, ruined. Do this if you wish, adversary. In killing me, I would win. And now is our time for candles of joy and concern. After your dramatic reading, my favorite kids. So please, if you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, raise your hands and
It's kind of a joy and a concern. So candle of joy for the migrant families who will be staying in Rockland for some period of time. Hopefully they get a little bit of a rest on what's probably been a very long journey for them to get here, and some sanctuary and a chance to argue their case to stay if they want to. And then concern just about the community, making sure that they make them feel welcome. Yeah, that love wins and hate festers alone at home.
Good morning. Rick and I share both the same joys and the same concerns. I hope that the community is able to come together in support of these families right now. And I also have another concern in that I've just been dealing with asthma this week, and I'm hoping to clear that up. It's very frustrating and humbling when breathing is tougher than it is normally.
I have a concern I just learned about on the same issue. At that hotel in Rockland Motel, there is a woman with her children who have been living there, and she is being booted out because they can get more on the immigrant side than her. So she will be homeless soon. So I don't know what to do about that. I feel like I need to do something because I've been homeless before. So anyone wants to talk to me about that later, it's really bothering me. Very covered as well.
do you know her name?
No, I don't.
My cousin, Mary Ellen, who just lost her husband on Sunday, his name is Nate. Carolyn, who hasn't been feeling well.
All right. I'm sure it's saying that prayer for everyone that's sick and suffering, especially in silence. There's no.
Candle Joy. From Wednesday to Sunday, I will be babysitting my neighbor's chickens.
It'll go fine. I'll take care of it. Bonus settings if they're laying right
And the candle of concern for the Patriots.
And I'll light the last candle for all those joys and concerns we're holding in our hearts are not ready to speak about yet. Let us now enter into a spirit of prayer and invitation. May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium-sized, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those living near by, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one, from antipathy or hatred, wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her only child from hurt, so within yourself foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hate or envy. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living the life divine. Enjoy a moment of silence. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, sing in my heart, all the servants of compassion, flow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the air, in life, shape of justice. Whose holy cross, please set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
Thank you so much. Now is the time where we help collect some monetary things that go towards running the physical aspects.
I could sing for you. Song to make you feel this way. Sunshine on my shoulders make me happy. Sunshine in my eyes that make me cry. Sunshine on the waters look so deep. Sunshine on those stories so deep.
And now we'll sing a cappella, Spirit of Truth. Please stand as you're willing and able. The words are found in your order. Spirit of truth, the life of power, we bring ourselves as gifts to thee. Oh my God, ours this sacred hour, in faith and hope and cherish thee. Amen. You may be seated. I'm generally a very optimistic person, always finding silver linings where I can. When we hear about someone who is optimistic, we tend to think of things that are all sunshine, light, and rainbows. Stephen King has been publishing books since the 1970s. He is credited with reviving the genre of horror fiction in the late 20th century and has been called America's Boogeyman and the King of Horror. What in the world do the two have in common? Let's find out. I have read all of Stephen King's books and short stories, I think. I have probably missed a short story here or there that was published as a standalone in other collections or magazines and have not been included in any of his collections. But I think I've read it. I've also read all the books and novellas he wrote as Richard Bachman, and any he was written with another author. And to be complete, and because they're good, I've also read his oldest son, Joe Hill's novels and some of his shorter stories. I tend to be a completionist when I find an author that I like. And I've liked Stephen King ever since I read Firestarter. I think when I was in either 6th or 7th grade. I read the novel It in 8th or 9th grade and read as much as I could in between and afterwards. He very quickly became my favorite author and has stayed that way, all the way up through and including reading Holly, his most recent novel at the beginning of September. I have my favorites of his books. There are some I have not liked. Even if you've never read a Stephen King novel, you know that he is the king of horror. His early books especially follow a bit of a formula. Maybe not as formulaic as classical fantasy, like the one from which I read, with a young person from a small town realizing they're able to perform the magic of the land and then have to save the world. But definitely they follow a pattern. A young person, especially in his earlier books, the protagonists are often young, either has or discovers something supernatural. There's something sinister that's a part of this supernatural element, which often shows the more horrific side of people. The person goes through a journey, maybe of their mind, maybe geographic, and then, if they make it, they're usually pretty crazy or emotionally destroyed by the end. Even if you've never read a Stephen King novel, you've probably seen, or at least seen trailers for some of the movies or TV shows based on those novels. Supernatural horror, everyone. The aforementioned Firestarter, Pet Sematary, The Shining, It, Children of the Corn, Carrie, The Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me. Wait, those last two snuck in there. Those aren't Stephen King. Oh, but they are. But neither is horror at all. Shawshank Redemption, which I still watch anytime I happen upon it on TV, much to the chagrin of my wife, is considered drama, crime, and mystery, and is based on the novella Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. And it has a really uplifting ending. Stand By Me, which centers around young people, is considered an adventure drama, and none of the main characters is destroyed at the end. Even less horror than Shawshank Redemption. Then take a movie like Misery or Geraldine. Those have horror elements, both by Stephen King. Those have horror elements, but nothing supernatural. Instead, the horror is horror either within one's mind or that is done by people without even supernatural to use as an instigator. And that's kind of the theme throughout his books. A lot of them do have supernatural elements, but some have none at all. And there's still horror. Or not. Stephen King gave the commencement speech at my college graduation in 2001. And yes, I was so thrilled, as he was even then my favorite author. His two sons went to my college, and the younger one graduated the year before me. I got to shake Stephen King's hand when he walked back up the aisle at the end. During our run through the day before, I was in the middle of the row, but during the actual commencement, I ended up coincidentally on the aisle, and he was shaking hands as he walked up. Even though I was on the wrong side and we ended up shaking left hands instead of right. In 1999, he was in a terrible accident when he was hit by a driver who then drove off while he was, Stephen King was walking near his home and the driver drove off after he hit him. He lay there for hours. He almost died, struggling with lingering injuries, and even thought he was going to retire afterwards. I graduated 2 years after that, in 2001, so his mortality was obviously still on his mind. He opened up by saying, last week, this week, next week, all over America, young men and women, and some not so young, in caps and gowns are listening to scholars, politicians, eminent thinkers, and probably Oprah Winfrey send them forth into their lives. You here at Vassar have invited the man most commonly seen as America's boogeyman to do that. And I have to ask you, what were you thinking? What in God's name were you thinking? He then proceeded to tell us that one day we would all die. And that perhaps was a bleak thing to tell us at what is otherwise a very happy day. But we did invite America's boogeyman, and he had to tell us the scary truth because that's his job. You know the old proverb, don't you, about the woman who carries the drowning scorpion across the raging stream. Once they're on the other side, it stings her, and as she staggers to her knees dying, she reproaches it for ingratitude. Come on, lady, it says. You knew I was a scorpion when you picked me up. And we knew he was the scary guy when we picked him for the job of commencement speaker. So we had to deal with it. That human life is brief when placed in time's wider perspective is something we all know. He then proceeded to share with us something he realized when he nearly died. You can't take it with you. He talked to us about altruism and being generous with the resources available, whether money or time, and announced that he was donating $20,000 to Dutchess Outreach. Vassar is in Regency, New York, in Dutchess County, in honor of our class, and that he would match up to the same amount in donations from our class. He started his commencement speech with a tone that seemed negative. You're all gonna die. But at the end, he instilled us with hope. Through our lives, we can have a positive impact throughout by utilizing the resources we have to make the world a better place, whether in small ways or in large ways. His last words were, so I ask you to begin the next great phase of your life by giving back and did more good than you ever dreamed. Does that sound like a message the King of Horror would have heard? Actually, it does. I said at the beginning that many of his horror novels end with the main character usually pretty crazy or emotionally destroyed. Sometimes dead, too. But though that may be an outcome, good has prevailed. It may not be all sunshine, light, and rainbows, but it's also not Cormac McCarthy's The Road. So when there's so much going on in the world that seems negative, and it seems like maybe things are not going the way we want, and it's hard to stay positive about where things are going, maybe it's time to pick up a Stephen King novel and be reminded that the twists and turns are unpredictable and scary, but there's also humor and delight, and in the end, there's a positive resolution. It may not look like we would have hoped it would, but it is a positive resolution in the end. Stephen King is not afraid to talk about scary things and to show the horrors that may exist, whether supernatural or even more terrifyingly, real life. He wasn't afraid to tell a group of graduating students that we were all going to die, that we can't take it with us, and to encourage us to always remember how we can help, whether in large or small ways, those less fortunate than us. In his books, even though the protagonist may end up dead or crazy at the end, good does prevail over evil, quite literally in his novel, The Stand. And in case you didn't know, his daughter Naomi is actually a UU minister in Florida. UUs individually believe in many different things, but we do agree about the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And I think we can all work to be patient, do our best to make it through the hard times, and to hope for the best. I'm going to end with some inspirational quotes by Stephen King, with some editorializing. Quote number 1. The scariest moment is always just before you start. How many times have you felt fear just by thinking about all the things you have to do? All the way from declaring your love to jumping from a plane, the moment right before you do it is full of adrenaline and feeling. We can't deny that doing it generates a series of contradictory emotions. The important part is taking the step and not letting fear get in our way. Once you get started and take your first steps to following your dreams, you'll feel a lot of fear, but keep going and don't give up. Quote 2. Fiction is the truth inside the lie. We tend to think that fiction is just a story, but it tends to tell us more about life than anything else. Really think about it and you'll see that the messages we hide in the stories we tell contain our deepest truths, even the ones you would never dare tell anyone. Quote 3. You can, you should, and if you're brave enough to start, you will. Whoever thinks that taking the first step to reaching any given goal guarantees them success is wrong. It shouldn't limit you instead, but make you take action. You need a lot of courage for this, courage which you can only find within yourself. Once you get started, getting through the obstacles is just another step. Take it one challenge at a time. Quote 4. Monsters are real, and ghosts are real too. They live inside us, and sometimes they win. Think about it. How many times have the voices in your head kept you from doing what you really wanted? Listening to those voices that tell you that you can't do it, that you're not good enough, or that you'll fail will freeze you and leave your feet stuck to the ground, disabling you from moving forward. Don't let your internal dialogue self-dominate you. Only you can defeat the monsters inside your head. Quote 5. Optimism is a perfectly legitimate response to failure. Failure is a very complicated concept. We tend to see it as a problem, but it's also a wide open door to opportunity. The only person who can decide what a failure is and how far it holds you back is yourself. You have the possibility of seeing failure as something extremely negative, or to look at it with extreme optimism. If you choose the latter, you'll be closer to reaching success. And our last one, we make up horrors to help us cope with the real ones. Fiction allows us to escape. We read and create to escape the challenges that life imposes. You can write, hate, dance, or do anything that helps distract you from your thoughts. These activities can help you deal with moments and events that are harmful to you. It doesn't matter how easy your life may seem at first glance. Surely you need to distract yourself once in a while. And if you haven't ever read a King book and would like a recommendation, there is a Stephen King book for everyone, regardless of what your favorite genre is. And I'd be happy to discuss those with you during coffee hour. So go forth and be optimistic. Blessed be. Our closing hymn will be number 118, This Little Light of Mine. Please stand as you're welcome.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Please remain standing as I extinguish the chalice. And join in saying the words found in your order. We
Extinguish this flame,
but
not
not
the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please be seated. And thank you to my as he lays this one.
In the spirit of optimism, I'm going to play a Spanish praise song called Elaborate.
Go forth and caffeinate.